I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. And right now, we're accepting investors in our $17 million round to revolutionize the future of social media. Today, for just $399, you can own 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. While the big platforms have grown too massive and disconnected from their users, Fanbase is building a platform where creators and users truly come first. We've already raised $4.8 million from everyday investors who believe in this vision, and now you can join them. This is your chance to invest in a social media tech company with over 1 million users that is disrupting media by allowing anyone to reach all of their following and monetize their content from day one. The market is changing, big platforms are failing to serve their users, and Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now. Invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the future of social media.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Thursday, January 23rd, 2025, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Folks, there's a significant plan underway. The twice-impeached, criminally convicted former President Donald the Con Trump and his associates are on a mission to defund Black America. I'm going to break down for y'all why this is a continuation of what we saw in the first and the second Reconstructions. Democratic Congressman Jim McGovern is calling out the GOP, the supposed party of law and order, regarding the pardons of the white domestic terrorists on January 6th. We'll also talk about how Donald Trump, listen up all you FBA people, how he pardoned 2 former D.C. cops who were convicted related to the shooting death of a black man in Washington, D.C. But you also know that they actually tried to cover up what took place. The judge who issued a temporary block on Trump's executive order, a Reagan-appointed judge, rips his idiotic attorneys. And CNN unveiled its new lineup today. Why are they screwing the one anchor who has the audacity to challenge the liars in the White House? That's Jim Acosta. Oh yeah, it's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah.
Drugs-loving thugs. That's Donald Trump and the people who he pardoned who participated in the January 6th assault on the U.S. Capitol. And if you want to see how sadistic, shameful, and despicable this idiot is, all you have to do is listen to what the twice-impeached, criminally convicted felon con man said during an interview with Sean Hannity. Listen to this stupidity.
You were very straightforward. You said you would pardon these people that were sentenced for January 6th.
No, totally.
You did. The only criticism or pushback I've seen is about people that were convicted or were involved in incidents where they were violent with police. Why did they get a pardon?
A number of reasons. Number one, they were in there for 3.5 years, a long time.
Right.
And in many solitary confinement.
Yeah. 3.5 years, a long time. Really? A long time. Tarrio got sentenced to 22 years. The Oath Keeper, he's the Proud Boy. The Oath Keeper, he got sentenced to 18 years. 3.5 years, a long time? Anyway, press play.
Like nobody's ever been treated so badly. They were treated like the...
Oh my God, some of them were in solitary confinement, treated like nobody ever has been treated. Would you like to see the names of former Black Panthers who spent 20 and 30 years in solitary confinement? Idiot, press play.
Worst criminals in history. And you know what they were there for? They were protesting the vote because they knew the election was rigged and they were protesting the vote. And that you should be allowed to protest a vote. You should be allowed to. You know, when the day comes...
But you shouldn't be able to invade the Capitol.
No, ready? Most of the people were absolutely innocent. Okay, but forgetting all about that, these people have served horribly a long time. It would be very, very cumbersome to go and look. You know how many people we're talking about? 1,500 people. Almost all of them should not have been, this should not have happened. And
oh my God, it would be so cumbersome to have to go through that list. Do y'all remember when 2,500 people were pardoned by Biden? That's more than 1,500. Y'all do know there's a process for pardons. There's literally an entire department in the Department of Justice that actually deals with this. But this was just too cumbersome because y'all know I got ADD and y'all know I don't read. And so I wasn't gonna sit there and go through this case by case. What the hell? I'm pardoning everybody. Press play.
The thing is this, some of those people with the police, true, but they were very minor incidents, okay? You know, they get built up by that a couple of fake guys that are on CNN all the time.
Minor. Minor? I'm gonna play a video in a little bit of Senator Chris Murphy describing some of those minor injuries. Press play.
Nobody watches.
They were very minor incidents, and it was time. You have murderers in Philadelphia. You have murderers in Los Angeles that don't even get any time. They don't even collect them, and they know they're there to be collected.
Yes, please, by all means, show me the murderers in Los Angeles and Philadelphia who kill people with impunity and they don't get arrested. Press play.
Then they go on television and act holier than thou about this one or that one. You had 1,500 people that suffered. That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. Those are a lot of thugs. Those are a lot of domestic terrorists. Democratic Congressman Jim McGovern of Massachusetts, let's just say he kicked the Republicans' ass about these pardons.
But let me tell you about the people that you can't seem to want to, that you continue to want to defend and who have been pardoned. Here are some of the convicted felons that Trump set free on Monday. Stephen Cappuccio, convicted of 6 felonies, including assaulting a police officer, ripped off Metro police officer Daniel Hodges' gas mask, and at one point during the assault, he said, and I quote, "How do you like me now, mother effer?" Pardoned by Donald Trump. David Dempsey, sentenced to 20 years. He stomped on police officers' heads struck an officer in the head with a metal crutch and attacked police with pepper spray and broken pieces of furniture. He also attacked a fellow rioter who was trying to disarm him, and he has a demonstrated history of political violence, pardoned by Donald Trump. Enrique Tarrio, sentenced to 22 years, former national leader of the Proud Boys, a domestic terrorist far-right militia. He was found guilty of seditious conspiracy, helped plan the January 6th attack, and made sure it was violent, pardoned by Donald Trump. Guy Reffitt, sentenced to 7 years and 3 months. He brought a gun, zip ties, body armor, and a helmet to the Capitol, presumably to try to take hostages in an attempt to keep Trump in office after he lost, pardoned by Donald Trump. Daniel Joseph D.J. Rodriguez, sentenced to over 12 years. He repeatedly tased Officer Mike Fanone, shocking him in the neck multiple times and causing him to lose consciousness and have a heart attack. He was pardoned by Donald Trump. Patrick McCaughey III, sentenced to 90 months. He assaulted police, beat their faces and bodies with riot shields and batons that he stole for them, pardoned by Donald Trump. Peter Francis Stager, sentenced to 4 years and 4 months. He pled guilty to assaulting an officer with a deadly weapon. On video declaring every single one of those Capitol law enforcement officers, death is the remedy. Those are his words. That is the only remedy they get. Pardoned by Donald Trump. Julian Cater, sentenced to 6 years, attacked Officer Brian Sicknick with pepper spray. Officer Sicknick died the next day after suffering 2 strokes. Edward Jake Lang was on trial for 11 charges, including swinging a baseball bat at officers. In addition to his January 6 charges, he began organizing a nationwide network of armed militias in all 50 states, pardoned by Donald Trump. Mr. Speaker, criminals pardoned were not tourists. They were not peaceful. They were violent criminals. And here's just one example. Daniel Ball's case was dismissed today, and he was released from jail. Why was he in jail? He was being held in pretrial detention because of what a judge described as, quote, some of the most violent and serious offenses of any of the charges being brought against participants in the January 6th events, end quote. That includes hurling an explosive device into the Lower West Terrace tunnel of the Capitol, the scene of some of the most egregious violence against police that day. Some officers suffered from hearing loss for months. But get this, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Ball has already been arrested again on federal gun charges. And he was already a 2-time convicted felon for, and I quote, domestic violence battery by strangulation and resisting law enforcement with violence. Yeah, he already arrested again. This is who the president pardoned. This is why my Republican friends are silent, because this is indefensible.
Remember that idiot said in the news conference when a reporter asked him, he's like, oh, we're going to look into that. Dumbass, you already issued the pardon. Congress House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said, quote, House Republicans are celebrating pardons issued to a bloodthirsty mob that violently assaulted police officers on January 6, 2021. What happened to backing the blue? Far-right extremists have become the party of lawlessness and disorder. Don't ever lecture America again about anything. The federal judges who sentenced these thugs to prison also weighed in. Here is federal judge Beryl Howell. No national injustice occurred here, just as no outcome determinative election fraud occurred in the 2020 presidential election. No process of national reconciliation can begin when poor losers whose preferred candidate loses an election are glorified for disrupting a constitutionally mandated proceeding in Congress and doing so with impunity. That merely raises the dangerous specter of future lawless conduct by other poor losers and undermines the rule of law. Yet this presidential pronouncement of a, quote, national injustice is the sole justification provided in the government's motion to dismiss the pending indictment. Federal Judge Tanya Chutkan, this is what she said. when it comes to this particular ruling. The dismissal of this case cannot undo the rampage that left multiple people dead, injured more than 140 people, and inflicted millions of dollars in damage. It cannot diminish the heroism of law enforcement officers who struggled facing serious injury and even death to control the mob that overwhelmed them. It cannot whitewash the blood, feces, and terror that the mob left in its wake. And it cannot repair the jagged breach in America's sacred tradition of peacefully transitioning power. In hundreds of cases like this one over the past 4 years, judges in this district have administered justice without fear or favor. The historical record established by those proceedings must stand unmoved by political winds as a testament and as a warning. The Proud Boys and the Oath Keeper who were released, they said retribution needs to be had against the judges and the courts when it comes to what took place here. So what Donald Trump has done, he has actually unleashed these thugs on America. While he condemns violent immigrants, what he is doing, he is embracing, loving, coddling, holding, caressing, and kissing the ass of violent white domestic terrorists, and even in the case of Tario, a Hispanic domestic terrorist who chose to unleash their hatred on this country. There are people who are scared. There are family members who turned in their family members who were involved in the thuggish, violent behavior of January 6th. They are now afraid of those family members coming after them. They are afraid that Trump will give them complete cover in all that he does. What we are dealing with, folks, is an unhinged thug. Keep in mind what this thug has also done. He has pardoned 2 former Washington, D.C. cops who were involved in the death of a 20-year-old black man from Washington, D.C. during a police pursuit in 2020. Terrence Sutton of the Metropolitan Police Department was convicted of second-degree murder, conspiracy to obstruct, and obstruction of justice in the case of Karon Hylton-Brown. Lieutenant Andrew Zabaski was found guilty of conspiracy to obstruct and obstruction of justice. Karon was killed in October 2020. The officers saw him riding a scooter on the sidewalk without a helmet. This prompted the officers to activate their emergency lights and attempt to make a traffic stop. The police pursuit lasted over 10 blocks, during which the officers reached speeds of more than double the residential speed limit. The pursuit led Hylton-Brown into an alleyway, and as he exited, he was struck by an oncoming vehicle. He suffered severe head trauma and died 2 days later from his injuries. We reached out to the attorney representing Karon's mother, Karon Hylton, and were informed that they are not making any comments to the media at this time. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser released this statement. Trump pardoned 2 MPD officers involved in a fatal police pursuit, while MPD has long believed that the unfortunate loss of life caused by this police pursuit was best addressed in MPD's administrative processes, not a criminal one. We nonetheless accepted the jury verdicts. We continue to focus on training and discipline to hold our officers accountable to department policy and district law related to pursuits, while keeping our community safe from violent offenders. Now, the MPD, the Metropolitan Police Department, acknowledges Donald Trump's executive action in this matter. The men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department work tirelessly to prevent crime and ensure the safety of those that live in, work in, and visit the District of Columbia. Every day, our members perform inherently dangerous work that requires professional judgment and split-second decision-making. The prosecutions of Officer Terrence Sutton and Lieutenant Andrew Zabaski were literally unprecedented. Never before in any other jurisdiction in the country has a police officer been charged with second-degree murder for pursuing a suspect. These members could never have imagined that engaging in a core function of their job will be prosecuted as a crime. The department recognizes the risk involved in vehicle pursuits, which are reflected in our pursuit policy, but violations of that policy should be addressed through training and discipline, not through criminal prosecution. The department thanks Trump and interim U.S. Attorney Ed Martin for supporting our officers. Now, let me deal with this as best that I can. That is a bullshit statement from the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department, and that is a bullshit statement from D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser. I am sick and tired of these people covering cops for their actions. Your police officers pursued a young man on a fucking scooter because he wasn't wearing a damn helmet. That was a simple deal right there. Hey, young man, you know what? You need to be safe. You need to wear we need to wear a helmet with that scooter. But no, that wasn't what happened here. They pursued him, leading to him being hit and him dying. And in your statements, you are kissing the ass of this con man who pardoned 2 cops for their wrongdoing. See, this is what is called weakness. And yes, that is a weak statement from MPD, and that is a weak and atrocious statement from the mayor. That tells me y'all don't give a damn about your citizens. You are kissing the ass of cops. But we told y'all this was going to happen. We told y'all Donald Trump said he was going to give cops 100% immunity for, quote, doing their job. And see, some of y'all said, well, hey, he can't, he can only do it on the federal level. Oh, y'all forgot D.C. ain't a state. So he can pardon cops in D.C. Now, if that was a state prosecution in New York City or Charlotte or Houston or Dallas, whole different conversation. Here's what people need to understand. What is going on here? You are seeing on the end of presidential power. You're seeing what happens when someone uses the power for evil. There's a difference between using it for good and using it for evil. And while I'm on this conversation, I think it's also important to say this here. President Joe Biden, you let a whole bunch of black people down. You're not in office without black people. You don't win South Carolina without black people. And how dare you issue pardons to your family, but not Marilyn Mosby? How dare you ignore the pardon requests from Vice President Harris and from Congressman Jim Clyburn and from so many others who worked for you, people who worked in your administration, who talked to you? Are you serious? You couldn't issue a pardon to Sandy Jackson, the former Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr.? Fine. Not a full pardon. Fine, a clemency. You couldn't do any of that. Oh, but you protected your family. And so, yeah, Biden is deserving of criticism for his failure to issue pardon. No, there was some black folks who he did pardon. But it was a whole bunch of people who were deserving who he did not. People who went to the mat. And let me tell you something, President Joe Biden. If Congressman Jim Clyburn comes to me, the man responsible for putting my ass in office, and says, Joe, here's my list, you know what you do? You see, thanks, Jim, pardon Jim's list. That's actually what you do. So it needs to be said that Biden should be called out for the black folks who he did not pardon, but he found time to pardon his family members. But people need to understand what's happening here. Especially all of y'all Negroes. Comments in the chat room. All of you Negroes who said, oh, Democrats, they ain't doing this, they ain't doing that. No. Y'all ain't doing enough. We gonna make y'all pay. Well, please tell me 3 days in, how's that working out? Please tell me 3 days in how that's going. Oh, and I'm just letting y'all know. The Civil Rights Division, do not be shocked. Let me go ahead and put it on the table. Don't you be shocked when Trump's DOJ goes back to unwind every single consent decree that was negotiated by the Biden-Harris Department of Justice. And then what are all y'all Negroes gonna say? Are you that concerned about, because you think another stimulus check is coming your way, which ain't happening? Are some of y'all so interested in tax cuts? If that's gonna happen, you ain't benefiting from that. And so we must understand that when these liars sat there and said, I disavow Project 2025. I don't know what's in it. I don't want to read it. Some of y'all said, see, Roland, I know why you keep talking about it, because, he said he knew nothing about it. But he seemed to hire every single person who wrote it, and they are enacting every single one of Project 2025 policies. See, can't nobody sit here and say, man, we didn't know. We didn't know this was going to happen. Yes, we did. And we told you, and a whole bunch of you shameful, pathetic, so-called black people who are on your YouTube channels, who are on your social media channels, calling yourself New Black Media. Man, look at them shields. Look at them shields. Look at them shilling for the Democratic Party. But now y'all got lots to say. Now, I saw one of these dumbasses tweeted, I never told nobody not to vote for somebody, but you sure had a hell of a record of running down Biden and Harris and essentially supporting Trump with your comments, you bastard. But see, that's what some of y'all do. Oh, yeah. It ain't gonna, I love it. This ain't gonna be as bad. We survived Trump the first time. We can survive Trump this time. Oh, I remember y'all comments. I remember your post. I remember what you were saying. I remember when y'all were yelling, tangibles or no vote. I remember a whole bunch of y'all who were yelling tangibles who wanted economic opportunities. A whole bunch of y'all who were saying, we got to have, Kamala, Kamala, no, her economic plan, it ain't good enough. Whole bunch of y'all were yelling and screaming about, we need this and we need that, and we want an economic plan just for black people. I'm going to deal with that in a second, the effort to defund Black America. But I need y'all to understand that there will not be any justice for black lives being taken on the federal level for the next 4 years. I don't think, I'm going to go ahead and put it down right now. I do not believe the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division under the twice-impeached, criminally convicted felon, con man, thug Donald Trump. I don't believe they're going to pursue hate crime charges against anybody. If it involves somebody black, y'all, that ain't happening. I don't believe you're going to see them investigate a single police department. I don't believe, now mind you, they only did one last time, a small department in Louisiana. I don't think for a second you're going to see them investigate any wardens, any jailers. If you are a civil rights attorney, the door has not only been slammed shut in your face, they have simply not just locked it, they have welded that son of a bitch shut. There will be no bank of justice. There will be no place where we can go to seek recourse. And by the way, they're labeling anybody at Soros District Attorney, and they want to take them out too. But we tried to tell you. And if you believe that BS, and now you're whining and complaining, all I got for you is Scarface's No Tears. I'll go to my panel right now. Dr. Greg Carr, Department of Afro-American Studies, Howard University, joins us right now. Dr. Larry Walker joining us from Orlando, California. Doctor, glad to have you here. Then we got the Gumbo Queen, Dr. Nola Haynes, who's here as well. Yes, I said that. Let me just get right into this thing. And I'm gonna go to you first, Larry. I really don't think these folk who are watching and listening really and truly understand the living hell that has been unleashed on America for non-white people.
So, Roland, what's happening is a reverse of the Great Society programs and these monumental civil rights laws over the last several decades. And let me be clear, the Great Society programs were civil rights bills that now, even though they were specifically designed to address issues of de jure segregation and, positively impact the lives of all Americans. So we heard a lot of conversation the last 24 hours about the executive order relating to contractors and in terms of discrimination based on race, sex, religion, et cetera. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's just getting started here. And so we have to be really clear, like I said, in terms of the progress that Black folks have made in terms of entering the Black middle class, supporting Black institutions. There's an attempt to rewrite all that. The framing is DEI and various other catchy phrases. But the reality is a focus on reversing the gains of the Civil Rights Act. Let me also know, and I know Dr. Carr knows this, we've seen this response to Black progress before, from the Red Summer of 1919 to Richard Nixon and his efforts to make life difficult for Black folks. So this is not new. So I recommend we continue to invest in Black institutions. But it's really important for Black folks to understand we've got literally 4 years of this. And so we need to have a concrete plan of action on how we respond to this and how do we regain a lot of the civil rights we're going to lose over the next several years. And lastly, for those folks who didn't vote the way they needed to vote, you're about to find out like everyone else. And also to the folks out there outside of the Black community, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, all of these other things that all people in this country depend on, you're also about to find out. But unfortunately, Black folks will pay the bigger price because of how racism works in America.
Nola, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. The thing that keeps playing in my mind over and over is this constant return to the militias. This has been a problem in this country since the founding of this country. And what the president essentially did when he let 1,500 violent people out of jail, when he pardoned them, he gave them a blank check to terrorize. He said, it is okay, I got your back, because now you're not only loyal to me, you're angry, and you're going to want to do what I tell you to do. That is the part for me as a terrorism expert that truly bothers me. It scares me. I have been telling women, please go to self-defense classes, learn how to defend yourself, because legally a militia has been released from prison. And they are going to do whatever it is that they want to do because the president has their back. That is the one thing that I think about. And I just want to give one quick example. So Harry Dunn had posted on Blue Sky from Sergeant Gunnell. This is what it says. Sergeant Gunnell sent me this picture. This is his call log. Each call is an automated Department of Justice notification saying the defendant you testified against is being released from the Department of Corrections. And then it is a long call list of at least 10 times that the Department of Justice called this man to say, the people you testified against, the January 6th insurrectionists, are getting out of jail. So good luck. That's what keeps rolling over in my mind. That is what people voted for. That is people that stayed home and did not vote. That is what the agitators and the chaos agents, that's what you did. While people like us on this show, we weren't just ranting and raving. We weren't being histrionic. This is experience. This is expertise. And we tried to tell you. And so we're now, all of us are finding out.
Greg.
I agree, of course, with what has been said. And Nola, thank you for saying that. Our brother Mike Harriet wrote a column in his website, Contraband Camp, where he said, they F around, we find out. So we will bear the brunt of this. And I just want to reiterate something. I think people have heard me say this many times everywhere. I have no investment in this criminal enterprise. It's an accident of birth. We were drugged here in chains. And so it has to be renegotiated. My support of the strategies that we have all, as you say, Nola, have been talking about now for a couple of years was based on one thing and one thing only: self-defense. Another way, harm reduction. Well, we're in it now. And now that we're in it, and I can't wait to hear you walk through Reconstruction and make the comparisons, Roland, this is a criminal enterprise that was always headed here. Now, if you didn't want to do it the easy way, then let's dance the hard way. And here's what we're seeing. This is, and that was to my friends, as Gerald Horn calls them, our friends on the left. In fact, Roland, maybe you can reach our brother Cornel West. Time to talk, Cornel. You were talking a lot before the election when you ran for president. Let's talk now, because we were going to try to do it the easy way. Now we do it the hard way. Martin Luther King is not a hero because he did the easy thing. He didn't run for president. He said, "I'm not a politician." He did the hard thing. So let's get Brother Cornel in. Let's hear what he has to say now. That having been said, what with these January 6 folk, the pardons are about one thing before anything else. And of course, Donald Trump didn't read any of them. When you read Project 2025, you understand we're in stage 4 now. Stage 1 was the plan. Stage 2 was putting the database for people together. Stage 3 is the one that's got everybody in the federal government nervous. When they switch out you after the boot camp, they do their job. And then Part 4 is what we're seeing now. He's just signing things. He didn't read it. He didn't sign, because all that's being implemented. But here's the thing as it relates to what we saw with these Proud Boys and these Oath Keepers and everyone else. They're normalizing something. They are establishing a definition for what it means to be an American.
Yep.
That's why they take Spanish off the website, as you wrote in White Fear. This is why you go on the White House website now and it looks like a damn garage sale with eagles and bodies. Shit. I mean, it's what it looks like. They're establishing what it means to be an American. Understand that. Once you do that, you're tapping into a vibe. And so what we are headed for, we had a cold civil war. It's now heating up. So when you heard him with Hannity say, ready? In other words, I don't care what you're talking about. Let me tell you what's going on. Absolutely innocent, meaning this is what it looks like to be innocent. They were trying to come for your whiteness. So you had to fight it. When he says, you know, a couple of thugs here, and then he called Brother Karon Brown an immigrant. In that same interview, he said, well, they were chasing an immigrant. So when he is talking about people who are criminals, he's saying, I'm talking about the people who are not white. And when you hear the Congresswoman from WrestleMania here in Georgia say that we need to build more prisons, they're talking about us. Now, what are the implications of this? Well, it's pretty simple, quite frankly. By the way, Terrence Sutton and Zablaski, they get pardoned. That's step 1 to pardon these January 6 folk. Step 2, and this is where people's heads are going to explode, except those of us who see what this is. Wait till they come to the White House and get their medals. When you heard, when you heard Enrico Tartario said that January 6th should now be declared Patriots Day. Wait till they propose a national holiday. You know, Juneteenth, whatever. We're going to have Patriots Day. It's going to be January 6th every year. But here is what happens next. News from Mexico this week. Claudia Sheinbaum, they are building huge facilities along the U.S.-Mexico border. They have at least tents and facilities, permanent kind of tents, in 9 cities. It's under something that they're calling the Mexican government Mexico Embraces You plan. What does that mean? You see, as the United States goes into this nativist phase, guess what? Mexico is left with 2 choices. 80% of what they produce in Mexico is absorbed into the United States. Well, guess what? Here comes Xi Jinping. Y'all ready now? Okay, let's move that way. Donald Trump talking about is Spain in the BRICS. Guess what they're doing now? It's time now to knock the United States off the square. It's been an illusion that they were the only power for probably 30 years. Now it's time to make that real. Canada is scrambling now, trying to figure out how to make overtures. What these fools are getting ready to do. And I can't say that I am not I'm very enthusiastic about it, quite frankly. There'll be some pain, but I'm very enthusiastic about it. They're getting ready to tear it up, friends. They are getting ready to tear it up. And how many times have you heard us say that? But guess what? They F around. We're going to find out. They're going to find out, but they don't care. So this isn't about appealing to any common framework. There is no common framework. What they're telling you right now, in the words of the 19th century and Reconstruction, this is a white man's country. Deal with it. And we are going to deal with it, friend, because it's not a white man's country. It's not a white man's world. And you know who's going to find out at the end? These white boys.
So, folks, we're going to take a quick break. And we come back, I'm going to further explain what this defund Black America is all about. But I need to keep telling y'all, this isn't the first time we've been here. This is literally American history. But too many of us have seemed to forget. I'll be right back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
What's up, y'all? Look, Fanbase is more than a platform. It's a movement to empower creators, offering a unique opportunity for everyday people to invest in Black-owned tech, infrastructure, and help shape the future of social media. Investing in technology is essential for creating long-term wealth and influence in the digital age. The Black community must not only consume tech, we must own it.
Discover how equity crowdfunding can serve as a powerful tool for funding Black businesses, allowing entrepreneurs to raise capital directly through their community through the Jobs Act.
Coming soon to the Black Star Network.
But y'all, when you're on that stage, or when you're and you're seeing 2 and 3, 4 generations in the audience, that's got to speak to you about the power of what y'all have become.
Oh, most definitely. I think we were doing our show before our break, and remember, I was watching this kid. I could not take my eyes off him because he was about 9 or so. He was sitting in the front row with his
over on the right hand
parents.
side. Yes.
I was amazed that this kid knew everything, and I was like tripping to see how many songs this kid actually knew.
And he knew them all.
And he knew them all. We had to go over there and bring him on stage and take a picture with him, at the end of the show and stuff, because it was just that amazing. It's like, this is crazy.
The music travels everywhere, like what Philip was saying, seeing this young kid, then you hear our songs on commercials, cold commercials. Then you have the younger ones that hear our music in animation.
Sherry Shepard with Sammy Roman.
I'm Dr. Robin B., pharmacist and fitness coach, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
So, folks, last night we had a conversation on the show where I talked about these executive orders and how MAGA and Donald Trump, how they are specifically targeting Black America with these orders. Now, many folks are like, well, man, I don't know about all of that. But what have I always told y'all? You have to follow the money. That if you're not having a money conversation, you're not having an American conversation. So you often hear me refer to the Reconstruction periods on this show. And I mention that all the time. Why do I mention that? It is because you've heard me also say, in the history of America, every time there's been a period of Black success, there's been a longer period of white backlash. And see, now you got people like Senator Bernie Sanders and Senator Chris Murphy and others, and who just, for them, no, this is not race, this is class. That's not what it is. But no, they're wrong. They're absolutely wrong. See, what you have to realize is that if you go back to the first Reconstruction, and if you really want an understanding of this, and I guarantee you, if Greg was at home, he would reach back and grab it if he was there. If you really want to understand this, you have to understand this. This is called Black Reconstruction in America, 1860 to 1880, written by W.E.B. Du Bois. This here, y'all, for those of you, if you include the bibliography, if you even include the index, this is a 746-page book where he talks about the period of Reconstruction. What is the period of Reconstruction? It is that period after the end of the Civil War when you had a focus of the radical Republicans, which is not today's Republican Party. The radical Republicans, and if y'all really want to learn some history, go look up Thaddeus Stevens. These radical Republicans, they had no interest in bipartisanship. They wanted to change America. They said, damn the other people, we got the majority, run the bills through. And that's how you got the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment, which are called the Reconstruction Amendments. That's when you begin to look at the Civil Rights Act that was passed in the 1860s that provided a framework for African Americans to be able to access, listen to y'all, contracts. I don't think some of y'all heard what I just said. One of those laws that was passed, it was not passed in 1854. It wasn't around the same time as Dred Scott decision. This particular act was passed because the radical Republicans understood that coming out of Reconstruction, that the freed people of African descent needed to be able to access the economic levers of the country in order for them to be able to move ahead. Now, this, if you look at real quick here, I pulled it up. You see this AI overview. The Civil Rights Act of 1866 was the first federal law in the United States to define citizenship and protect the civil rights of all citizens. It also was a bill that dealt with economics. It was economics. And so what began to happen during Reconstruction? I would argue at the Reconstruction period, the first one, is the most successful period in the history of America for people of African descent. Because what happens during the Reconstruction period, you then begin to see freed people of African descent running for state legislature. You see them being elected to Congress. Do y'all realize that which we now know to be hardcore right-wing Confederate, the first state that succeeded from the Union because they wanted to support slavery, South Carolina, that had a majority black legislature? Because you know why? The black folks, they're the numbers. Do y'all even recognize that taxpayer-funded education is a result of those free people of African descent putting it in the state constitution? James D. Anderson's book, The Education of Blacks in the South, 1860 to 1935, details that. You then begin to see, I know a lot of people get caught up in 40 acres and a mule, but black folks were not waiting on 40 acres and a mule. They began to acquire property. They began to open businesses. You then begin to see, we talk about Black Wall Street in Tulsa in 1921 burning down. You literally had Black Wall Streets happening all over the country beginning during Reconstruction. But what then happened? And you can look at Eric W.B. DeVos' book, or if you want to, you can read Eric Foner's book, Reconstruction, America's Unfinished Revolution. He has it from 1863 to 1877. 1877 is kind of important. I'm about to get to it. So what then happens? All of a sudden, you begin to see African Americans creating opportunities, but passing bills. You begin to see them building things and doing things and opening schools. And all of a sudden, you begin to have white folks who then go, you know what? That's enough. We done enough for these Negroes. Listen, we about tired of hearing about all this stuff we need to do. Yeah, I know we had them enslaved for 200 plus years, but can we just move along? We don't have time. White America started getting tired of doing things for those people. We've done enough for those people. Then there's an election, 1876, a contested election. Sounds quite familiar. And so the Republicans and the Democrats then all of a sudden begin to say, well, you know what? The Democrats say, well, hey, why don't we do this here? We're going to let y'all go ahead and y'all can go ahead and y'all had a presidency. But we're going to do a deal. Y'all got to pull these federal troops of the last 3 remaining southern capitals. Oh, I'm sorry. Remember I told y'all they kept saying we're getting tired of that? See, what happened was they put federal troops in state capitals to ensure that the the Dixiecrats, the racists, would not take over. Oh, I'm sorry, let me go back. See, one of the big mistakes of Lincoln and the radical Republicans, of course, remember Lincoln gets assassinated, being he is followed by an absolute violent racist, Andrew Johnson. What then happens, he then goes, you know what, to hell with that. We're going to return the land to the slave owners if they apologize for what they did. So America put the folk back in power who were the ones who led to the Civil War. So what then happens, you then begin to have this election, it gets contested, and so then there's a compromise. We ain't in the room. The white folks were making a deal, and that's known as the Great Compromise of 1877. Do y'all know what came after the Great Compromise of 1877? The Reconstruction period ended. That's when the period of Jim Crow started. These white folks were like, no, we have done enough for these black people. We are sick and tired of doing this. So then we come around to a second Reconstruction. All of a sudden, Emmett Till gets killed August 28th, 1955. Then all of a sudden, you have these black women in Montgomery, Alabama, the Women's Council, who were organizing, and they were doing what they were supposed to do. Then all of a sudden, you then begin to have these black women. It was not the black preachers. It was not the black men. It was the black women in Montgomery, Alabama, who were the ones who started the Montgomery bus boycott. Then Rosa Parks sits down. Then it begins December 1st, 1955. They begin to bring them to their knees. But understand, Montgomery, it went all the way to the Supreme Court, but then Montgomery buckled because it was a money thing, y'all. That began a 13-year odyssey when you begin to see the fight over civil rights, and you then begin to see the laws passed, the Civil Rights Act of 64, the Voting Rights Act of 65, the Fair Housing Act of 1968. And guess what happened? You had these Republicans who actually were supportive of civil rights, and all of a sudden Barry Goldwater runs for president in 1964. He was a senator from Arizona, and then what does Barry Goldwater do? Barry Goldwater then, he opposes the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That was his bedrock. King was so offended by that King actually campaigned for President Lyndon Baines Johnson in 1964, something that he never did. But they said it was so important for Goldwater not to win because Barry Goldwater was going to stop civil rights in its tracks. Why is that important? Why is Barry Goldwater's opposition to the 64 Civil Rights Act so important? Because the 64 Civil Rights Act dealt with public accommodations. It dealt with you couldn't bar people from restaurants and transportation. It went on and on and on. Oh, well, I'm sorry, that means that you couldn't bar people. You could not discriminate against people. And so, guess what? They inserted women into the 64 Civil Rights Act. That racist from Virginia, Judge Smith, thinking that would kill the bill, it actually helped pass the bill. That's important because you can now go to Title IX, and that's one of the reasons why it was passed, because of the 64 Civil Rights Act. It's a provision of the Civil Rights Act. So why is this important? Because what happens? King gets killed April 4th, 1968, assassinated. 69. Nixon becomes president. Arthur Fletcher brings in forth affirmative action. You have a period from 68 to the early 80s where black mayors begin to take over. You begin to see contracts, quotas, affirmative action, dollars. Second Reconstruction. You had dollars flowing during the first one. You had dollars flowing during the second one. All of a sudden you get to the 80s. Nixon, he's gone. Carter's president. Reagan runs. Oh, the same President Ronald Reagan, who he was governor of California, running for governor of California, supported a bill for white folks not allowing them not to sell their houses to black people. Some of y'all gonna pay attention. The same Reagan who became governor, who when the Black Panthers brought their guns to the state capitol, they immediately outlawed carrying long rifles. They said, oh, hell no, even though that was actually legal. The same Reagan who changed the rules that caused for tuition in college for you to be charged because they did not want the regular, ordinary, common man to become educated. Man, some of y'all are gonna have to learn some damn history. So what then happened? So here you've appeared from 69 to about 82, 83. And Reagan wins in 1980, inaugurated in 1981. What does Reagan then do? Reagan begins to go after affirmative action programs. You then begin to see the lawsuits happen. Then you begin to see the decisions coming down out of the Supreme Court where they then begin to put constraints on affirmative action. That's an economic situation. And Reagan, in his 8 years, begins to unleash holy hell economically against black people. And then what happens on May 25th, 2020? George Floyd is killed. George Floyd is killed on May 25th, 2020. And folk like me said, y'all, this is the third Reconstruction. We said in that aftermath that unlike the first two, which largely focused on civil rights, although economics was a part of it, this should be solely focused on civil rights. What happens in the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd? You begin to see white people and Latino folks, and you begin to see Asians protesting, shutting companies down, forcing them to make economic commitments to be change agents. And white conservatives went, oh, shit. We can't have this. We cannot have a generation or two of young white people who are reading and being educated about the real history of America. There's no coincidence. The attacks on critical race theory comes after George Floyd's death. Oh, some of you may say, well, I still don't understand. What's the deal here? Because the attacks on CRT and the attacks on wokeness were all designed to drive a wedge through conscious white people and the folk who wanted to keep the system the same. You had white people in companies who were forcing them. Adidas announced a $10 million commitment, and the white folks in the company lost their minds so much the next day the CEO said, oh, it's going to be $100 million. Companies pledged 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 billion in economic commitments in the wake of the death of George Floyd. And then the right said, no, we cannot have this. Oh, no, hell no. Remember, May 25th, 2020, Trump was in the White House. We cannot have this because if we have this coalition of young white people who now all of a sudden becomes conscious, who all of a sudden becomes awake, then all of a sudden we are guaranteed to lose elections in the future. And so what do they then begin to do? They begin to complain about books. They begin to complain about what they're seeing in libraries, and what then happens? They begin to run for school board. Moms for Liberty begins to rise up, and so they take all of that fury in 2021 and begin to win, and that goes into 2022. It sets up the return of Donald Trump. But what a lot of people have been missing is that Brown versus Board of Education decision in 1954 leads to, of course, in 1955. And all of a sudden, you begin to see the changes made by those federal judges. And so the hardcore right goes, damn it, we got to combat this. And the civil rights laws beginning to come in 1960. And they said, no, we can't have this. And then all of a sudden, because of what black people did, fighting for civil rights, and then it was black people's fighting for civil rights which opened the doors for immigrants to be able to come into the country. Thank you, Indian Americans. You're welcome, Pakistani Americans. You're welcome, Asian Americans, because that's black people make that happen. Then the white folks said, oh, hell no. This all of a sudden, this multiracial America, we ain't having that. That's why you begin to see rich folks, the Mellons of the world, begin to fund the Heritage Foundation, fund the conservative think tanks, because they needed to establish a structure to reframe America, because we cannot have a multiracial America where these people are going to be in power. So we are going to attack economics, affirmative action. We're going to attack voting rights. We're going to attack everything which is the underpinning of the society. All these things happen, which is why, folks, you have a Robert Mercer, billionaire, funder of Breitbart. What does he do? This is what he said. Go to my iPad. Mercer often argued that the 1964 Civil Rights Act was a mistake. According to the New Yorker, a former employee claimed that Mercer asserted repeatedly that African Americans were better off economically before the civil rights. Mercer allegedly claimed that black people were racist, and they were no more racist, that there were no more white racists. He said black people were racist and that there were no more white racists. That's the billionaire Robert Mercer, who was one of the biggest funders of Donald Trump in the 2016 election, who was the chief funder of Breitbart. This election, you had Charlie Kirk, the CEO of Turning Point USA, who was organizing and galvanizing young white folks on college campuses all across the country, especially young white men. This is what Charlie Kirk said about the 1964 Civil Rights Act.
Be clear, created a beast, and that beast has now turned into an anti-white weapon.
Yeah, and that's the reality. And so we just need to fundamentally relook at a lot of our civil rights legal regime. And without that, even though I don't think it's sort of the magic bullet, but I think without that, there's limits to the amount of progress we're going to make.
Let's talk about discourse and dialogue. This topic would have been even more forbidden 4 or 5 years ago, but it's now becoming in more and more mainstream circles. Is that because the problem is becoming worse, or but our side is more courageous to confront it?
Did y'all hear that? We couldn't talk about this 4 or 5 years ago, but now we can. That's a person who literally has the ear of the person sitting in the Oval Office. We do not understand that the executive orders that have been issued this week, the attacks on affirmative action in colleges and admissions, they are getting rid of programs, scholarship programs. They're getting rid of internship programs. They're getting rid of access. What this is about is the complete attack. And this is the goal of exactly what they did in 1877. This is no different than when the white racists in Mississippi convened the Constitutional Convention in 1890. And they said, we cannot let these niggas keep voting. Oh, I know, I'm sorry. Supreme Court Justice John Roberts, he doesn't use that language, but it's essentially what they did when they gutted Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act. The attacks on Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Do understand, right now, you have at least 4 Supreme Court justices who would love to completely get rid of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And why this is important is because the 1964 Civil Rights Act is the enforcement mechanism that has led to all of these changes for Black America since that period. So what they understand, if we assault the 1964 Civil Rights Act and get rid of that, and then we completely get rid of the 1965 Voting Rights Act, what we have effectively done is it's gutted black leadership and African Americans from being able to take advantage of what happens in this country. So while a lot of y'all are bullshitting around on whether you can be on fucking TikTok, while you're getting caught up in some bullshit housewife, while you're having your fucking MJ and LeBron debates on who's the GOAT, there is literally, as we speak, an entire focus to gut every single civil right and economic gain that we have had since 1964 because they are pissed with those three acts. They're pissed with the Brown versus Board of Education Act. You have voucher bills that are being pushed in Texas and Tennessee and other places to gut public education. What we have to understand is there is a vicious assault to completely defund Black America. So why did I wear what I'm wearing today? We had this sister on the show. She launched her own athletic apparel company, shoe company as well. So what I'm wearing, y'all, is all Black owned. Well, we have to understand, King talked about it in his sermon on April 3rd, 1968. What do you think this was about? Operation Breadbasket, an untold story of civil rights in Chicago, 1966 to 1971 by Martin Depp. This was about the money. And when you have corporations who are now afraid, who are scared to death, oh, Costco is standing up to them. McDonald's buckled. Walmart buckled. Jack Daniels buckled. If you want to understand what Black folks should be doing, every Black person right now should be saying, the hell with Jack Daniels. Don't ever buy Jack Daniels again. You don't want to stand with us, especially when you are a company that even exists because a Black man showed you how to do it. We should be saying, get Uncle Nearest. Black folks should be saying, Hennessy, where do you stand? Yeah, we're going to stop drinking your stuff too. The only way we are going to counter what is happening right now, this effort to defund Black America, is to say, keep playing with us, we're going to defund your company. Because there are companies that depend upon Black market share. Car companies, soda companies, fast food companies, clothing companies. Black America, music companies, entertainment companies. But the question is, do we have the actual courage to use the power that we have? Greg, I'm going to go to you first because
we don't.
This is about the money, and the money is about power, and the power is about control. And they are executing an agenda, a radical agenda that will absolutely do economic harm to Black people for the next century.
Yes, absolutely. I think it was a masterful walkthrough, Roland, very necessary, an important level set for folks who really think this is about one election or one candidate's policies or whether you like their spouse or whether they smoked weed when they were in college, silly things, as you said. The framework that you laid out really helps us connect the dots. This entire, when I call the United States a criminal enterprise, it's not an original criminal enterprise. It is an extension of a half millennium of criminal enterprise called the modern world system. This is a process that did not involve the entire world, that came out of Western Eurasia, what we now call Europe, that combines culture and commerce and politics in terms of state formation. So when we talk about Spain and Portugal, we talk about Holland, we talk about England and France, And we're not talking about Germany because Germany hasn't formed in a way, and that's what World War I and World War II about. Basically, they were like, we didn't get the jump that y'all got, riding African peoples back into modernity. That's what, of course, Howard French is writing about in his book, Born in Blackness. But what you just laid out for us, it's about the money. You're absolutely right. And the money is a proxy for a larger concept of economics. There is no concept of citizenship that comes out of Africa. The ancient Egyptians did not have a concept, at least one has not been discovered yet. Certainly a concept of belonging and being part of community, but the concept of the civitas, the concept of the polis that comes out of Greece and Rome really find voice in Western Eurasia as these people began to fight. And by these people, I mean the rich, the elites, began to fight. This is what Magna Carta was about in the 13th century, began to fight over resources. That's what drives land poor and resource poor Europe into boats to go visit this cancer on the rest of the world. And what does that have to do with us right now? Well, the United States of America, and with all due respect to a concept of a 1619 project, it isn't just the British in Virginia, it's the Spanish in what it becomes South Carolina and New Mexico. It's the French in the Mississippi Valley. It's the Dutch in what we now call New York, that was New Amsterdam. They are trying, in other words, to colonize the world for profit. And when the dust settles after their colonies turn on them, the most prominent set of colonies turning on the home country being, of course, the so-called American Revolution, which was fighting over property, now you have the problem that you've introduced us to, Roland. What do you do with people who entered this legal framework as property? This is the Federalist Papers. They've got debates over the Constitution. We are not people. Understand that the idea that Africans are people is a radical concept to these Europeans who saw us the same way they saw the chickens and the gold and the silver and the cotton and the indigo. So what do you do with these people? And here is the problem that they had. You couldn't kill us, and you needed our labor to continue your criminal enterprise. So, Roland, when you laid out the Reconstruction and the Reconstruction amendments, that is the critical thing. When you evoke what is a property document, understand the U.S. Constitution isn't about rights. It's about rights to make profit. It's a property document. It's a document about free enterprise. It's a document about trade. Private property is the central concept for the criminal enterprises of these people from Europe and their colonies. And what they codify in the three branches of the federal Constitution is a concept of private property. But one problem. You got 4 million of us by the 1860s, and we're not going into that good night quietly. And you're in a global system where you want to expand, and everybody else is in the game of exploitation. So when that Civil War is over, and we fought our own way out of the Civil War, the South wants to continue to profit. The North is trying to keep it together. That's what Abraham Lincoln is trying to do. But ultimately, the decision of slavery, that decision was called because we, who remember, came into that conflict as so-called contraband, meaning what? Property. We took the step to free ourselves. That's what, as you say, Du Bois is writing about in Black Reconstruction in America. The Civil Rights Act of 1866, you see the conflict codified. Why? Because they're saying that African people coming into this now will have a concept of citizenship to beat back that Dred Scott concept, where Taney doubles down on the idea that we're property. They say, part of that language, which is why Byron Allen seized on it, is that we will now have not just political rights, but the right to make and enforce contracts. Now Africans are in the legal universe no longer as property. Sure, citizenship is emerging, but now there's an economic stake. This is a problem. The problem's codified in the 14th Amendment. But watch what happens last. And you've gone through the history, so I'm not going to repeat that. I'm just going to fast forward now to Lewis Powell, who I know you talked about many times. That Powell memorandum that he writes when he's in the Chamber of Commerce in the United States, living in Northern Virginia, and he says, since this civil rights movement has seen these African people attempt to assert a concept of citizenship that they should never have had, and since the 14th Amendment has been eviscerated, as Du Bois writes about, and then used to extend the economic contract through the idea that corporations are legal entities in the form of people. That's what they used the 14th Amendment for, since they've been eviscerating it since the end of Reconstruction. Lewis Powell says we've got to now claw back the concept of private property, claw back the idea of free trade and commerce. And 3 years later, the Heritage Foundation is created. And the first of Project 2025, the first mandate for leadership is created. And so I'll end with this. What you have done, Roland, is put it where the goats could get it, as Joe Madison would say. In a global system that is built on the concept of property dispossession and taking other people's labor, other people's land, that's why we're here having this conversation in English. The thing that has become ungovernable is the concept that whiteness can continue to run the world. They have no choice but to do what they are doing right now. Because the only way you can maintain some kind of political apparatus to keep this going is to ground it in an irrational, vibe-driven concept of whiteness. And the elites, whether it be Elon Musk, who will never get out of bed with China. This is what this electric vehicle stuff is about, because he's over there right now, back and forth. Whether it be the other billionaires who could give a damn about citizenship or anything else, their concept is global, whether it be Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, or anyone else. At the center of this is this unruly group of people. These Africans, these indigenous people, these people who simply refuse to die and refuse to go away. You cannot pour your hopes and dreams into this concept of the United States. What you have to pour your hopes and dreams into is yourself, and take a page from every other group in this 500-year fight who have put themselves first, and then you stand from a position of strength to begin to negotiate. But you talking a language they don't understand when you start talking about we are Americans, we're better than this. Nah, and you just walked us through why.
See, people literally don't even realize how they get played, Nola. This is what the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon in chief said on Monday at the Insurrection Fest at the U.S. Capitol. Guys, the video from the inauguration. You had it up earlier. Yes, the video from the inauguration that I requested when he thanked black people.
We had a powerful win in all 7 swing states, and the popular vote, we won by millions of people. To the Black and Hispanic communities, I want to thank you for the tremendous outpouring of love and trust that you have shown me with your vote. We set records, and I will not forget it. I've heard your voices in the campaign, and I look forward to working with you in the years to come. Today is Martin Luther King Day, and his honor, this will be a great honor, but in his honor, we will strive together to make his dream a reality. We will make his dream come true.
And what did that liar do? Gut the very things that King fought for. And if you black and you fail for that bullshit, you are a dumbass, Nola.
He couldn't even get it out. He couldn't even finish the statement because it wasn't authentic. He couldn't even finish the end of the statement that we're going to make his dream come true. Lies. Lies. And, you know, I'm so happy that we're talking about Du Bois because, you know, in the great debate between Booker T. Washington and Du Bois, in many ways, I am a Du Boisian. And I'm going to kind of come back to this MLK, this kind of worship, you know, at the altar of MLK when it's MLK Day. And I would also say, you know, don't be surprised if they circle back and try to not make MLK a federal national holiday. I'm gonna just go ahead and put that out there. But, you know, as we're having this conversation, you know, Roland, as you're walking us through the different reconstructions, the one thing that is rolling around in my head, and, you know, Greg made so many salient points, that question that Du Bois asked in The Soul of Black Folk, how does it feel to be a problem? It is a question that is it's so salient in this moment, because what you're talking about is Black people have been a problem in this country since the day we were stolen from Africa and brought here illegally. We have been a problem because you can't get rid of us. Everything has been tried. You treated us like cattle. You enslaved us. You put us on plantations. There was Jim Crow, black codes, everything you can think of. We have survived. And every time we surpass a little bit of surviving and maybe get to thriving, to your point, it is completely taken away from us. And, you know, I had posted something on my Instagram, not the popular speeches from MLK, but it was this one quote that he said, basically, how dare you ask of a man to pull himself up by his bootstraps when he does not own any boots? That's paraphrasing. And so essentially, this is like, this is the story of Black person, the Black person in America. How do you expect us to continue to fight over and over and over and over when people are constantly trying to steal our boots? The raggedy boots we may have on, that we are proud to wear, and they are constantly trying to take our boots. And I'm such a Du Boisian. I actually have him on my international relations and race syllabus, something that I got a lot of side eyes for, but I don't care. But you really have to think about this in a context of what we've represented from day one in this country. And also, I'm going to bring in Barack Obama into this. The fact that that Black man was the president of this country and pretty much went 8 years unscathed, you know, no major dramas outside of the tan suit, you know, him and his really Black wife, you know, that did something to white America. It drove them insane, right? It literally drove them insane. So everything that we're seeing is successive. Everything is successive. And you want to even go further back to that. I always tell people, if you've never seen BlacKkKlansman, please watch BlacKkKlansman and watch it until the end. Because what Spike Lee does at the end of that movie with David Duke and how they have been generationally trying to get to a Project 2025 moment, they have been putting in the work for generations. They have been reworking and retooling. And this is where we are now. We've made too many strides. There's been a Negro as a president. Oh, no. No. These Black folks are being way too fancy. Way too fancy. We have to snatch their boots. And this is a moment that we're in right now, the snatching of the boots. When you told us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, oh, but that's DEI, right? That's not merit. We didn't deserve any of those boots that we put on ourselves. So here we are again. They're trying to make us bootless. But what we do know is how to be a damn problem in the United States of America.
See, Larry, I love these people, especially my haters, who out see Larry, they were, you know, yeah, Roland Martin trying to tell y'all to vote and why you gotta vote and all this. Guess what? The conservatives were waiting for us to be stupid. The conservatives were waiting for us to sit on the couch. For all y'all smart asses out there, let me help y'all out. Do y'all know the justification that Chief Justice John Roberts gave for gutting Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act? It came post-election of Obama. He said, well, since they voting in record numbers, there's no need for Section 4. And guess what has happened since 2012? Our vote numbers went down in 2014, in 2016, in 2018, in 2020, in 2022, in 2024. We didn't show up in Louisiana, and guess what crazy deranged MAGA Jeff Landry was elected? There are more eligible black voters in Texas than any state in the union. And guess what? We barely are hitting 50%. Even in places like Atlanta, where you should be seeing turnout at 50 and 60 and 70 and 75%. No, we're seeing turnout in the mayoral elections at 18, 20, 22, and 26. And so what these conservatives are sitting here doing is saying, thank you. Thank you. We have so frustrated y'all. We have so devalued y'all. We have told y'all how the Democrats don't do nothing for y'all, so therefore you don't vote for them, and you sitting on the couch, all it does is solidify our power. And as a result, they are running the table in places all across the country. The reality is that there's no reason Republicans should ever have a supermajority in North Carolina. They don't have it now. But if black folks voted our numbers in North Carolina, that would never happen. In fact, if black folks would vote for with our numbers in South Carolina would change. Georgia would change. Florida would change. Mississippi would change. When Mike Espy lost to Cindy Hyde-Smith in that special election, he lost by 65,000 votes. There were more than 100,000 eligible black people in Mississippi who could have voted, but who did not. And so for all of y'all who love to sit here and talk about, man, you always talking about voting, you always talking about voting, I don't know why you always talking about voting. Now you understand what happens when they have power. Now you understand when the pardons come down and they get rid of, they sign executive orders and they begin to gut civil rights and economic rights. And now you understand when they change the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. Now you are about to see with your own eyes every single Generation Alpha, Generation Z, Millennial, Generation X, what it looks like to live close to Jim Crow. Now I know some of y'all are saying, Roland, this ain't Jim Crow because I can go to the club with a white woman. This ain't Jim Crow because I can go out and we can go here and I can use this water fountain. I can use this bathroom and I can go here. But you need to understand, and I'm telling you right now, mark it down, 7:40 p.m. Eastern on January 23rd. A year from now, you are going to see a dramatic drop in the number of contracts that black businesses have gotten from the federal government. You are going to see a year from now a dramatic drop in the contracts that black-owned businesses will receive from corporate America and from state governments and from county governments and city governments and school districts. You are about to see an economic calamity come down in black America because too many of us sat our asses on the couch, chose not to vote because we said, well, if I don't get nothing before I vote, then I'm not going to vote. Now you are witnessing with your very eyes what happens. And then what you have are some of these same people who I saw your tweets. Well, I'm saying that we got to do for self. We got to do for self. Let me explain to you, everybody who keeps talking about doing for self, please explain to me how you are going to do for self in an industry that requires contracts. Please tell me how you're going to do that. If you do not have black companies that control every aspect of the supply chain, then you cannot do for self. And so you cannot show me how in America that if black folks then begin to shut out of contracts from federal government, state government, county government, city government, school districts, How are you going to do that? Right now, you have an assault on federal workers because of MAGA. Black people over-index in federal worker jobs. We are a higher percentage of workers in the federal government than we are in the population of the United States. There are more black people who have high five-figure and six-figure jobs in government than we do in corporate America. So when you begin to see those attacks on the federal level, you're then going to begin to see black people not be able to get the jobs in corporate America, which now means you can't buy a house. You means you cannot save money. You cannot invest money. You cannot afford to send your kids to college. And then when they cut Pell Grants, you can't send your kids to college, to HBCUs, because you don't have the $75 and $80 and $100,000 a year job, because now what are you going to be able to do? And so I need people to understand, Larry, this is what happens when you choose not to exercise that one basic power of voting. Then what you begin to do is lead to an economic catastrophe in the black community, and all of the work that people put in to create even what we got, which was not perfect, we are about to see, and I'm telling y'all it's happening, we are about to see not an erosion of what we built up. You are about to see an economic catastrophe that will take another century to rebuild.
You know, Roland, you give the harsh reality for where we are right now, as you know, in terms of the black community. And essentially, before the election, people dismissed a lot of racist rhetoric and said it was nothing, ignore it. It won't have any impact about our livelihood. But some folks, and particularly I'm talking to the brothers out there, 21% of brothers who voted in the wrong direction. Essentially, what you believed is that it's okay to be like a lived-in hostage, because that's essentially what happened is black folks would be like lived-in hostages. Because you talked about the economic impact, and this is connected to the political impact. I also want to mention when you provided that timeline, one of the things we need to do, what's really important, is folks need to make sure they educate themselves. So I'm going to recommend you read Just Permanent Interest by former Congressman and CBC, one of the founders of CBC, William Clay Sr., in terms of understanding it, in terms of where we started, where we are as a black community. And so, Roland, your point about how long this is going to take in terms to reverse all of these issues that we want to deal with as a community. And I don't think folks are really prepared. We've seen the last 48 hours, it's essentially kind of like a shock and awe in terms of the executive orders. But we talk about there's a significant number of black folks who work for the federal government, not only in the D.C. area, but throughout the United States. And so you see, essentially, put out a rat request if there are any DEI programs that they think they missed. If you don't report it, they're going to fire you too. So now you're going to have folks turn on other people who maybe have nothing to do with DEI, submit their people's names, and they may lose their job. And of course, these folks are going to be disproportionately black. So what does that leave many people in our black community, as it relates to economics? The other thing I want to highlight, Roland, in terms of we talk about this historical nature issue about racism in America, is I need the folks to go back and check out the debate between, we had the debate in Cambridge, Massachusetts, between Baldwin and Buckley in 1965.
The same Buckley who supported the Civil Rights Act until Barry Goldwater wrote his book, The Conscience of a Conservative.
Right. And so the title of the debate was "The American Dream is at the Expense of the American Negro." And like many people, I've seen it a number of times, but I need some folks to go back and watch that important debate. And we know Buckley is kind of the father of the modern conservative, network we see today. But it's really important in terms of historically for black folks to understand that the fight that we're undergoing now has consistently happened for centuries. But at least at some point, particularly, like I said, I talked about earlier with the Great Society programs, that we had some kind of success in terms of ending Jim Crow. And then we've seen some other opportunities. We talked about the election of President Obama, obviously some economic growth. Black folks had the opportunity to go to any higher education institution they want to, but then folks said that's too much. And we need to dismantle all of that. So what you're seeing is a complete reversal of all the success that we've seen over the last several decades. And and folks are unprepared for it because they thought that, this is all, smoke and mirrors, this is all a game. No, we're in it now. And so what are we prepared to do? Because we have to continue to keep fighting, but we need to make sure we have obviously some policies in place in terms of initiatives, in terms of what we do strategically to address this issue. Because it is going to be a 24/7 fight to make sure that we maintain a minimum of some of the things we've gained over the last several decades, and then make sure not too many of these provisions are reversed, and then fight over the next several years, really for the next several generations, for some of the new laws to make sure to counter a lot of the challenges we've had.
And see,
we're in it now.
Right, but see, the mistake that people are making is y'all are looking at this through a Democratic and a Republic lens.
That's right.
I don't look at this stuff through a Democratic and a Republican lens. I look at this through a Black lens. I look at this through the eyes of a Black man. I'm looking at policies and I look at how people operate. Go to my iPad. Y'all, if you don't understand today's modern Republican Party, this is the book that changed it all. Barry Goldwater and the Conscience of a Conservative. What does it say right here? Edited by C.C. Goldwater, right? With a new foreword by George F. Weil and a new afterword by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. See, a whole bunch of y'all. Oh, I saw a bunch of y'all. Entertainers too. Y'all were talking about y'all were supporting Robert F. Kennedy. And you didn't even realize the game that he was running. Y'all didn't realize that. And I saw some of y'all, man, well, Kamala, she should have made an outreach to Robert F. Kennedy. Why? Everybody knew what RFK Jr. was. See, y'all ain't, see, y'all falling for the okie doke. When you are making a decision who to vote for, you make a decision based upon what I see, what I hear, how things are operating. Look at this here. All of these. Donald Trump said, I will end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. Y'all fell for it. Y'all sit here and y'all fall for all of this stuff, not even remotely realizing what is going on. You don't even understand, again, what is happening, because you know what I hear? A lot of our people, man, I don't read, I don't watch the news. I don't read stuff. So how in the hell can you be informed if you have no idea of what is happening even in the world? Oh, I see the numbers. I see the numbers. And let me be real clear. Let me be real clear. This is not a shot at folk I know. Oh, but I'll see y'all loving shenanigans in sports YouTube channels and commentaries. Oh, and everything is fun. But let me help y'all out. Let me help y'all. Do I still have the, let me find it. Let me see if I can find it. On Facebook, I'm sorry, this actually was posted just yesterday. I'm trying to pull it up right now. And it showed all of the folks who are getting offer letters rescinded for jobs. Are y'all aware that there were scholarships that were awarded to black folks and others that are now being rescinded? Are y'all aware that there are people who had jobs in the Department of Veteran Affairs where they're trying to take care of America's troops, and they are rescinding jobs for those people? Oh, if y'all want to have the conversation, we can. And so what is happening before our very eyes, we are literally seeing massive changes take place. And some of us are just joking and playing and having so much fun. But I'm warning you, I'm warning you. And they're not understanding this, Nola. They're targeting black PhDs. They're targeting folks with masters. They're targeting every single one of the programs. See, we had some simple-minded Negro in the chat. Yeah, you know, I voted for Harris, but Roland Martin was talking down to the regular people in the streets. And I'll say it, no problem, Panther 55. You can kiss my ass. Because, see, I can guarantee you I can go in the streets and, because, see, I know what I'm told. I know there are barbershops that are streaming our show in the barbershops. I know because I get the letters, and the brothers who were in prison stop me and saying, man, I got through prison watching you. See, y'all can sit here with that bullshit all you want to. Oh, you the boule, and y'all talking down. That is dumb as hell. Because first of all, right now is 5,500 people who are watching YouTube right now. Hey, dumbass, it's only 5,000 boule members. So guess what? And I guarantee you, the entire boule ain't watching me right now. But see, Nola, that's the Simple Simon shit that some of these folk don't realize. And while they sitting here yelling about, you in the boule, you ain't talk to the regular people, you ain't talk to the regular people. Guess what? You getting jacked. The programs that are happening, these things are going down as we speak. Nola, you are hearing from these people. You are hearing from I guarantee you are hearing from long-serving diplomats in the State Department, people who have given their lives to the federal bureaucracy, people who believe in what Ralph Bunche was doing, the first African-American to win a Nobel Peace Prize, who are summarily being dismissed because what they say. In fact, y'all don't even. Do y'all have the clip where Donald Trump said he could tell who's an illegal immigrant? Play it.
Open borders with people pouring in, some of whom, I won't get into it, but you can look at them and you can say, could be trouble, could be trouble.
You can look at them and tell you could be trouble. That's what they are saying right now to black people in the federal government, Nola.
First and foremost, it's just plain old school racism. No more, no less. Just plain old school racism, nothing new. But, you know, one of the most successful tricks ever played on black folks is to convince a large population of us that education does not matter. Why do you think people work so hard trying to convince people that higher education does not matter? It's a reason. It's a reason, as you alluded to earlier, Roland, as you were talking about Ronald Reagan and, you know, raising the price of education. My parents met at LSU, the New Orleans campus, which is now UNO. And my daddy always tells this story about how he paid my mama's tuition. He paid my mama's tuition out of his pocket. And then fast forward, 15 years later, you have to take out a second mortgage to send your child to school, or that child gets in debt starting out their professional careers, right? So this conversation about, oh, you uppity Negroes, you know, trying to bring back the Talented 10th and all that stuff. At the end of the day, it is so easy, Roland and everybody on this panel, to my colleagues, to seduce angry, ignorant people. And I'm not calling folks out there ignorant, but what I'm saying is, it is.
I'm calling the ignorant. Go ahead.
I knew you were gonna come in. I knew you were gonna come in.
I'm gonna call the ignorant.
I knew I could rely on you for that assist. What I'm saying is it's part of the strategy. It's part of the strategy to target a certain population, because they are thinking of you as ignorant, right? They are thinking of you as gullible. In the social sciences, it's called conditioning, right? So you condition people to respond the way that you want them to respond. And that is what we are seeing. And we saw so much of it, Roland. We saw so much of it over, this administration, especially during those 107 days with Kamala. There was so much debate. There were people that were mad that she spent a lot of time at the HBCUs, that it was too elite. It was too elite, that it was too much about Divine Nine, too much about Divine Nine. Okay, that's fine. Maybe, maybe not. But the thing that has always bothered me, and I've stood 10 toes down on this, when people try to push back and say, well, not everybody wants to have an education. Education isn't for everybody. And I'm like, okay, I'm not trying to run a race with no shoes on. I'm just not. But I come from a community in New Orleans where higher education that's what you do. You can get married, but you for sure going to college. So I am grateful to my community for that. But this debate, Roland, I'm telling you, it is something for me as an educator. I have dedicated my life to education. And it hurts me sitting here as a Black woman that somehow we have become the enemy. That the Black expert particularly, all experts right now are pretty much lined up against the wall, and they're ready to kind of like, but when you're Black and an expert, and when your own community doesn't have your back, somehow you become the enemy. You have been conditioned to celebrate the athlete, to celebrate the entertainer. But us three Black asses sitting up here, oh no, not us.
So something,
not y'all educated Negroes.
So something else happened.
I'll suspect.
Something else happened today that I need to warn y'all. So Donald Trump signed an executive order declassifying all of the papers regarding the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and Senator Robert F. Kennedy. Let me explain to y'all what's about to happen. What's about to happen. In 5 or 6 years, the FBI so-called recordings of Dr. King were set to be released. Those will now be released. The FBI, who I simply do not believe, claims that Dr. King, they have recordings of Dr. King having affairs, involved in orgies. They claimed that he was with a white prostitute in Las Vegas. And these were all notes. David Garrow wrote a story. No American media entity would run the story. So he went to a small outlet overseas. And there were the notes, and these notes were a part of the JFK papers at the I think Library of Congress or National Archives. And so he wrote a story based upon the notes. So Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, when he did all his videos trashing King, oh, we shouldn't be celebrating him. Let me explain to you why they doing this here. I just want y'all to understand what's about to come down. They are going to try to completely destroy the legacy of Dr. King. I guarantee you, when these papers are released, and you get the recordings and all the stuff from the FBI, people are gonna say, take his name off of streets, take his name off of elementary schools. We should not have programs honoring him. We should not have scholarship programs. He was not a moral man. I'm telling y'all, don't think for a second that this executive order signed by Trump, is all about let's just get at the truth of what happens. I'm telling y'all right now, and let me just be on record right now, in advance of whatever is released. And I'm just gonna say this here, and I remember, and I'm gonna quote my dear alpha brother, Andrew Young, when I asked him this question. I think we actually got it on tape as well in the interview that I did with him in Atlanta, when I asked him about this very thing, and he said, fuck them. Listen to me clearly. Any anything that is released related to the private life of Dr. King, who was not a perfect man, no man or woman is perfect. Anything released from the FBI and J. Edgar Hoover and his COINTEL program is full of shit. They tried to get King to kill himself. They doctored tapes. They sent stuff to Coretta Scott King. I absolutely believe nothing, absolutely nothing that comes from this FBI as it relates to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and J. Edgar Hoover's name shouldn't even be on the FBI building here in Washington, D.C., because he was a racist, corrupt, evil son of a bitch. And that should be the reaction every Black America gives when anything comes out about Dr. King released from this federal government and from this FBI. Greg, go ahead.
Agree with you. Of course, this is the only reason that these documents are being declassified. We know Robert Kennedy Jr. believes there was conspiracy to assassinate his uncle, and I agree with that in concept. I don't think James Earl Ray killed Martin Luther King, and I don't think those shots came from the grassy the school depository building. And there's a lot of scholarship on it, and people will argue, take sides. But let's be crystal clear about the King files. It is exactly what you said. Now, I will say, though, that I think John Hoover's name should be on the building because the FBI is a criminal enterprise. I don't think that for the same reasons that the MAGA people think it. I think that it's a criminal enterprise because as a person of African descent, it has never done anything other than attack and persecute and prosecute us. I'm glad to see Leonard Peltier home after decades, but Assata Shakur still can't come back. And so, but that having been said, what you have just said, folk, listen to everything tonight, but listen very carefully to this. We need to brace for this because, I think about some of the most brilliant thinkers, theologians we have, everybody from Jeremiah Wright to Vashti McKenzie. And, that world is a world that is populated by human beings. And we often hold our people to standards that other people don't. And I'm not saying we shouldn't, but I'm saying that we don't allow our people to be human. And Dr. King didn't make it 40 years old. And I'm glad you evoked David Garrow. David Garrow is a first-class researcher. He's done so much important work. Anybody get his book Rising Sun on Barack Obama, you won't look at Obama the same. It always cracks me up when people say, yeah, I'm critical of Obama, and people opening their mouths and have never read one word of one sentence, one paragraph of one page of anything about Barack Obama. You read David Garrow, you look at the whole world differently, and even Jonathan Ives' recent book on King came out a couple of summers ago, but it doesn't displace what Martin Luther King did. Unlike the young girl lover Matt Gaetz, unlike the convicted sexual predator Donald Trump, unlike damn near the whole Republican Party, Dr. King gave his life for everybody, regardless of color. And so I'll just end with this, and I just want to underscore what you said, Roland, and really, really, really support what you said, every word of it. And please, people, when these tapes are revealed, and they're only revealed because they want to take who they think is the champion, the central figure representing the moral standard of African people, which is the only reason there is a funky criminal enterprise called United States of America. Let's be very clear about that. And I don't think that it's going to take a century to claw back, because I don't think the United States is going to be here in a century, not in the current form. Not in its current form. I think it's inevitable. That's why they're pulling out the stops now. Steve Bannon is very clear about this, and I join him shoulder to shoulder and say, you're absolutely right, Mr. Bannon. Y'all don't have another play but this. This is the only play you have, and it's going to fail. It's going to fail. Anytime the damn ADL is supporting Elon Musk, who is openly supporting the AfD in Germany, a damn neo-Nazi party, it's very clear that everybody going for themselves. So guess what? We are too. But when they come for Dr. King and the way they're going to come for Dr. King, any one of you Negroes that runs out and talking about taking down a statue or rejecting Martin Luther King, I want you to keep that same energy for every one of these sexually frustrated, late at night punk deviants who are running this government and running industry. Because if you think you can measure Martin Luther King by a standard and not measure them by the standard, then you are betraying not only our people, you're betraying your own humanity.
Well, I'm glad you said that because House Speaker Mike Johnson, they were going to subpoena former Trump staffer Cassidy Hutchinson to testify before the next bogus January 6th hearing. To one of his aides went, hey, no, we shouldn't do that. Go to my iPad because the aide said that if they subpoenaed Cassidy Hutchinson, then it would reveal that a number of Republican lawmakers were texting her seeking sexual favors.
Yikes! Ooh.
An aide to Mike Johnson was like, hey, listen, we can't do that, dog. We can't do that because, yeah, some of our boys were trying to get with old girl and them text messages are going to be public. And they went, yeah, we ain't going to subpoena her. So yeah, that actually went down. The Washington Post is actually reporting that story. I got to do this as well. This is awesome. A Republican judge. So they went to court over this whole 14th Amendment citizenship thing, and a Reagan-appointed judge. And let me tell y'all something right now. I really hope that the federal judges who were appointed by Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and George W. Bush are going to have the guts to stand up to these thugs. Because we know the Trump-appointed judges like Eileen Cannon are dumber than a box of rocks, and that's insulting rocks. But this senior U.S. District Judge, John Coffinow, y'all, this is what happened on Thursday. He was, quote, blistering in his criticism of Trump's action as he granted a temporary restraining order that blocks Trump's executive order from taking effect nationwide. Quote, I've been on the bench for over 4 decades. I can't remember another case where the question presented is as clear as this one is. This is a blatantly unconstitutional order. There are other times in world history where we look back and people of goodwill can say, where were the judges? Where were the lawyers? Coffinour interrupted before Brett Shoemate, a Trump Justice Department attorney, could even complete his first sentence. He said, in your opinion, is this executive order constitutional? Shoemate said, quote, it absolutely is. The judge said, frankly, I have difficulty understanding how a member of the bar could state unequivocally that this is a constitutional order. It just boggles my mind. Larry, I hope there are other conservative judges who say, y'all got to be stuck on stupid with this bullshit. We ain't moving forward.
What happened to the originalists? You know, all these folks that always talk about that the U.S. Constitution or certain laws are stated as clear as day, and we're supposed to look at them in their original form. I don't hear those arguments coming from anyone in D.C. right now, and I find it very interesting. The other thing is, Roland, you made a reference to the Reconstruction Amendments earlier. The 14th Amendment is the Reconstruction Amendment. Roland, we should also note that the 14th Amendment specifically related to enslaved Africans, and now the folks who've come generations later, who've come to this country and been, you're born here, your parents come here as immigrants, no matter what you look like, are benefited from the fight by Black folks to make sure we were seen as U.S. citizens here in the United States. But listen, it's wild to me that we're even here. But this shows you how far right the United States is. Well, we have some folks having this argument that somehow you can invalidate the 14th Amendment through an executive order, which is completely ridiculous. But I agree with you, Roland. I'm curious to see how some of these, as we continue to deal with this issue, some of these judges deal with this. And I'm glad that this particular judge, you say was a Reagan appointee, was very clear about this. Makes no sense constitutionally. And I know, Dr. Carr is the resident attorney here, but when we've heard this over the last, from the first Trump administration to now, it always boggled my mind because it's clear as day in terms of the language in the Constitution. And for those Black folks out there who think that, somehow that this is okay, you need to go read a book and find out, once again, understand what the Reconstruction Amendments were all about and who these amendments were specifically designed to address, and Black folks being enslaved Africans and what it means to be a U.S. citizen. So, like I said, I was glad to see that earlier today. I read, members' quotes, but this is not the end of this issue. They will continue to push this, and we have to make sure that we keep all eyes open, and that we make sure that we don't continue to allow our constitutional rights to be infringed on.
Nola, I couldn't pass up this opportunity. I just couldn't pass up this opportunity. So I'm sitting here looking on social media, and there's this dude named John Basham, and he posted this yesterday. Attention, please, help. POTUS Trump and Senator Ted Cruz. My wife is a nurse and was recently hired by the VA. Our home is packed up. We have a new home, have spent thousands to move our family from Fort Worth to Waco. Following Trump's hiring freeze executive order, the VA rescinded her job offer. My wife showed, he said, hold on, because he said, I don't have the full, but he said, wait, hold up. My wife is in tears and inconsolable, and my family is devastated. It has been my wife's dream to work with needy disabled veterans. I'm a disabled vet. Now her family is lost with no clear path of what to do. Her job was to start in 2 weeks. He spelled two wrong, TWO. Right after we settle in, we are all huge Trump supporters, and I know this was an unintended consequence. I'm sure veterans medical care professionals were not the target of this EO. Please help me get this message to the White House so the president can fix this error. Veterans need not be affected should be affected. He misspelled that too. Because of out of control government spending elsewhere. Please help retweet this so Donald Trump is made aware in this big old, we need your help. And then he posted it. Another medical professional set to serve veterans a victim of unintended consequences of POTUS Trump's federal hiring freeze EO. I'm told DOD and medical professionals were supposed to be exempt, but bureaucrats are over applying the EO to hurt Trump. No, pimp. No. Your dumbass voted for that dumbass. And Nola, now these dumbass MAGA folk realize your ignorant ass got caught up in it. So again, all I got for you is no tears from Scarface. Now go sit your monkey ass down, and you gotta wait like everybody else. I don't wanna hear a damn thing. And yes, I have absolutely no empathy for John Basham.
First, it was the slave imitation, and now you doing the crybaby imitation. Like you on one tonight. I'm texting with Monique, and she like, girl, Roland on one tonight. I'm like, on 2, on 3, on 4. but listen, it's called the bad boy delusion, and I'm gonna tell you what that is. When you're a woman, sometimes you can convince yourself that bad boy who done slept with everybody and their mama, somehow you are the different one, and you are going to change him. That somehow you are so special that he is not going to hurt you and break your heart the same way he did with all those other women who cannot live up to you because you are you. It is that. Mm-hmm. These folks have convinced themselves that everything that this man said he's going to do does not apply to them because they are special. They are the voters. They are the cult. They are the followers. They are the loyal. And you know what happens to the loyal? You know what happens to the cult? You know what happens to the following? You are constantly devalued, used, and thrown to the side. The same way the original MAGAs are looking at him with the tech bros, buddying up. He's the cool guy now. He's finally the cool kid, something he's always wanted his entire life. He don't care nothing about you, baby, and your wife's predicament. I'm about to sit here and tell you, he don't care nothing about you. Not at all. You can text and tweet whatever you want to do to your little heart's content. He was talking to you, about you, because what you are not is Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos. You are not them. You have no value. And that is what we are seeing. And this is part of when people offer analysis about what we are seeing is a lot of radicalized behavior. It's a lot of cult behavior. I absolutely agree with that because oftentimes in cults, the members are treated horribly and they are conditioned to believe it is something that they did. It is something that they did not do enough of. And that is why they continue to prop up their dear leader. So, baby, what you are experiencing is the bad boy delusion. And I am so sorry that your life is falling apart, but we tried to tell you.
Again, I have no sympathy. Larry, none. Larry, Nola, Greg, I appreciate y'all being on today's show. We're going to keep speaking truth on this show and trying to warn people what's going on. They don't fully understand how crazy this thing is going to get. And again, y'all can mark my words, and y'all going to be like, damn, Roland, you told us. And we weren't paying attention, and guess what? We tried to warn y'all before the election. We tried to warn y'all, don't touch that oven. But now y'all want to go ahead and touch that oven. Now your ass is about to be burnt like a crisp because you sat here and did not want to listen to people who were trying to explain to you what is going to happen. What we're talking about with these people, again, they are angry. They are angry at the 1960s. They are pissed with black advancement. And they say now we have the opportunity to roll everything back, and they are going for it all. They are going for it all. So again, Larry, Nola, Greg, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Folks, why must you support what we do here? You take, for instance, again, what I'm wearing. This is a Tronus, and we had them on the show in our marketplace segment, and I'm doing this because we support black-owned businesses, but this is also a black-owned business. And listen, you got the guys who work for Obama, Pod, Save America. Oh boy, they made themselves super millionaires. We don't have 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 people subscribing to us every single month, paying $10. Yeah, listen. If we had 300,000 people paying us $10 a month, that's $3 million a month. Yo, are you serious? That's $36 million in a year. Oh, I can tell you right now, I would have the office next door, I can tell you right now, there would be another 50 to 75 employees here. We could blow the website out. We could sit here and have that news control room be operational 12, 14 hours. We would have full-scale morning show, you name it. But we don't. Do you have these advertisers out supporting us? Nope, they don't. I've met the ad agencies. They can get in line. That's right. Group M, Publicis, Horizon, all of them. Are they providing resources? Absolutely not. Oh, no, our clients don't want to buy news. Yeah, but I'm seeing all these ads run on Fox News. Mercedes-Benz actually had a whole segment that was sponsored on Fox 5. Mercedes-Benz. Just so y'all understand what's going on here. So it is critically important that you support the work that we do, because without you, we can't do it. The stories we look to cover, can't do it. The things that we stream, we can't do it. I'm telling you, I'm in active conversations right now with 2 or 3 people going over show treatments in terms of being able to launch new shows, but that actually cost. It actually cost money. And so when I say our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each a year, I mean that. That raises $1 million. That $1 million is absolutely crucial to be able to do what we need to do. And so, again, if you've already donated in previous year, love for you to donate again. If you can't do $50, you know what? Listen, we got people who give in 25, 15, 10. I got somebody who gave $1.08. Hey, I appreciate every single thing. But there are people who give in more than that. I saw a brother just the other day contribute to us $300, and I appreciate that. And so, you know, what I need folks to understand is that we're doing the work. We're not sitting here playing games, y'all. We're doing the work. Marlissa Belay, Henry Dotson, D. Har, Samuel Edaho Eckett, Marlissa Belay, Mark Gale, Verdale Lee, Sherelle Dorsey, Kevin Atkins, Vicky Cheek, Lamont Bradford, Erica Syfax, Susan Horton, David Norris, Morlin Wilson, McCall, Jamie Bernard, Raymond Winbush, Sykes Entertainment, April Lee. Wow, Sykes Entertainment, I really appreciate that $1,000 contribution on MLK Day. Thank you so much. Pamela Burton, Kip Layer. And I want y'all to understand something. I'm looking at donations of $10, $20, $50, $10, $25. I mean, you know, $100, $50, that was $300, a $1,000 one, $10, $5, $20, $25, $30, and so is all that. So I give shout outs to all those different people. So when you contribute, I mean, I'm looking right here. It's 5,000 people. There are 5,000 people who literally on our YouTube right now. If the 5,000 people on YouTube right now, and again, I'm just telling y'all, if those people, those 5,000 people said, you know what, we're going to join the Bring the Funk fan club, we're sitting there commenting, talking. If the 5,000 people on YouTube right now gave $50, we would raise instantly $250,000. Let me explain to you $250,000. That means that we could literally hire 3 staff writers at $75,000 apiece to write stories. I just want y'all to understand how real this is. So it's simple to sit here and say, oh, well, I'm just going to sit here and comment. I don't want to sit here and give and donate. Well, guess what, y'all? Stuff costs. Light, the monitor, the live streaming equipment, the robotic cameras. We have 10 robotic cameras in this studio, and 3 went down. We had to buy 3 more. Cost is real. And so when we say to support us, you can give on YouTube. We would prefer you give us to us directly. And again, everybody who gives to us, we do, somebody says, what percentage do you receive from YouTube membership? We receive most of that, but again, we prefer that you give directly to us via these other means. So if you want to contribute to us via Cash App, this is how you do so. Use the Stripe app, Cash App. You can't give direct in Cash App because they shut down our accounts. So use the Stripe app, the QR code's right there to give to Cash App. Or what you can do is you can actually, of course, if you're listening to us, go to blackstarnetwork.com to see the QR code. But you can't give to us direct because Cash App changed their rules and shut down all of our accounts. That's one thing. If you want to give us via PayPal, it's paypal.me/rmartin. You can actually set up annual giving. So if you want to give $50 or even more or less every year, you can set that up on PayPal. Venmo is venmo.com/RMUnfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com. You can send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. If you want to support us get our book, of course, Get White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Mind, available at bookstores nationwide. Get the audio version I read on Audible. Every proceed of the book goes right back into the show. We had our merchandise at Roland Martin Unfiltered Black Star Network merchandise. You want to get your shirt? I had it on last night. Don't blame me. I voted for the black woman. And also, hashtag we tried to tell you, FAFO 2025. You can get that, rolandmartin.creator-spring.com. Yes, I know they've been having issues because one of the warehouses, one of the distributors got impacted, but they're fixing the issue. Trust me, I'm riding them every single day. Or go to blackstarnetwork.com to get our merchandise. Also, folks, don't forget, download the Black Star Network app on Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Folks, that's it. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Holla! Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, We have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?